Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. Today, we've got top tournament decks from the Johnson Cup. The Johnson Cup is a 3 versus 3 tournament that basically all of the top ranked players in both tournaments and Infinite Ladder were put into teams of 3 and battled each other. There were 2 different brackets of the world. The winners of the world bracket will end up facing the winners of the Korea bracket. We have the world winners. The world final was today on Spyro's Twitch, and we watched the games. We saw how to play the decks, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the top 6 decks that were played today in the finals of the best players in the world's tournament. Cool. Hopefully you're ready. Hopefully you're excited, because I know I am excited to talk about these absolutely incredible decks. Spoiler, most are Loki and Thanos decks. Those seem to have taken their place at the top of the meta. Although we also have some Hela. All right, our decks and players. We've got Team Sizer. Team Sizer, if you want to see their run up to the finals, we're on It's Guest Gaming's streams. You can check out Guest, also put that on YouTube if you want to check out Guest's YouTube. FAK Crazy is the current #1 ranked player in the world. He's on top of the Infinite Leaderboard. And if you watch him play in this tournament, he is one of the most impressive players, and you will have absolutely no doubt why. After that, we're going to talk about our giveaway. We're in the middle of a giant season pass giveaway. Then we've got Andre Var, who ended up winning the final round. Losing the final round of this. Andre Var played really, really well. I don't know Andre Var's in-game name, so I can't tell you his current rank, but Andre Var played fantastically, a Russian player. Sizer, our friend, who you hear a lot about on this channel, is the current #24 ranked player and was the #1 ranked player in the December season. You can find Sizer on twitch.tv/Sizer2654. Sizer is excellent. Then we've got Team Desert Fox. We've got Comis. This is an Italian team, so we've got Comis. He's the #7 ranked player on the Infinite Leaderboard currently. Then we're going to look at the bundles that are in the Nuver shop and my monthly stats. At that point, we've got .geo, the #4 player in Marvel Snap, who was either #1 or #2 last season. Unfreaking believably good player is .geo. .geo's deck will be covered then. Then we've got Googly/Desert Fox. Desert Fox is the deck builder and streamer of this Italian group, the current #19 ranked player who often finishes around the top 10 to 25. And you can find Googly at twitch.tv/Googly89. And although that's in Italian, so, and we'll end as always with our shop and shoutouts, as you do. Okay, before we go any further, please hit subscribe. We get the best selection of top decks to you exclusively. We know all the top players, so we do our best to get it to you before everyone else gets it. This way you can take advantage of it and climb up the leaderboard. Subscribing, liking, commenting helps us with the YouTube algorithm that wants to just show you the top streamers over and over again. So if you're willing to help the little guy, please hit that sub button, leave a comment. Okay, our first deck is FAK Crazy's Thanos. This deck is wildly good. I think this is probably the most consistent and finished of the Thanos decks that we're going to look at. We're going to look at 3 different Thanos decks, and they're all different in really meaningful ways, because where there was a solved-ish Thanos list, there is no longer a solved Thanos list after the Lockjaw change. So where we are right now is this is the list that was played. It is real simple. It can chuck some big things and use Hela to win the game, or it can use Lockjaw to ramp out big things, or it can just play a relatively fair Thanos game. All of these things work. Now, we'll talk about a change that was made during the tournament in this deck and how it worked out, and whether it had to work out that way as we go. But it's worth noting that FAK Crazy completely dominated this tournament. When you watch them play, this was a class above even the best players. FAK Crazy was unbelievable. So huge props to this player. Okay, so Mobius was changed for Professor X during the tournament. In between FAK Crazy's first win and second game, which was a loss, it was a final, last game situation, and Professor X ended up biting Crazy. Just so I don't have to keep saying FAK, ended up biting Crazy in the ass, and let's look at the deck and talk about why. So it's the end of the game, and one location is filled. It's a Corvus game, so Hela is going to be the last play. One location is the Kiln, so it is locked off in favor of the opponent. But a Hela will bring back a Blob, Professor X, and then there was a Blob or Professor X, which will win that location. There's also one other spot where Hela is being played that a card can be played. Crazy chose to play a Power Stone there and force both cards into that, because the middle lane was one, right? So Crazy chose to play a Power Stone with Hela. Excuse me, the middle lane was one. Chose to play a Hela with Power Stone for 9 power in that left lane to force the Blob and Professor X into that kiln. Well, you can see Professor X spawned first and ended up costing Crazy that location, where a Blob spawn would have actually won the left location. The middle location was already won, and that would have been game. So that Professor X change ended up winning the game. Worse still, the matchup was a Loki match, and Mobius would have been absolutely incredible. Mobius is often backbreaking against Loki. Not having Mobius against Loki was a huge problem, as both Zabu and Quinjet ran wild. So Professor X is still really good in this deck. It's particularly really good against like Zoo-ish matchups and opposing Hela-ish matchups, whereas Mobius is very good in the mirror because Scar is a major pain in the ass card, and it's really, really good against Loki. So depending on what you're seeing, you can determine that. Jeff can be Psylocke here. I'm actually going to explain. I think if you're not running Professor X, Psylocke is often better than Jeff, because Psylocke, along with Time Stone and Corvus, gives you ways to get extra value out of Lockjaw, and making Lockjaw work as a way to win the game. But what Jeff does is when you have, and again, I'm scrolling back so you can see what I'm talking about. What Jeff does is when you have Vision, Jeff, at the end of the game, when you have both on board, that's 11 moving power for your opponent to try and make sense of where it's going to go. And it's often really, really difficult for them to figure out, and then they kind of have to guess how to play. Kara can be Armor, that's way worse. Corvus, Blob, Thanos, and Cull are not changeable. And Scar can be She-Hulk because you have Time Stone and you have Corvus, so that those are changeable plays. Alright, this is again the #1 player. I think the only loss he had in this whole tournament was this game. Absolutely dominant performance. So turn 1, draw. Turn 2, Time Stone, or if you added Psylocke, you can get locked out on 3. Or you can draw, or you can play Jeff. Turn 3 is Lockjaw is generally better than Corvus, and that's generally better than Kyra, who's more or less equal to Mobius. The Corvus play depends on what you have in hand. Sometimes you want to draw into big things, but if you have a couple big things and not much else to do, then Corvus is stellar. Kyra is if you see that they could be playing a Shang, or you've got a lot of stones and they're playing Destroyer or whatever. And Mobius is if, obviously they're playing Loki or something where Mobius will stomp them out. So turn 4, Jaw, if Cull is in hand, is the only time I really want to play Lockjaw on 4, because that leaves me a play on turn 5 of Stone and Cull. If not, I will play Vision if I've gotten any kind of ramp, and if not that, I'll play Cull. So turn 5, Cull and a Stone is the ideal play. You can also play a 6 if you played a ramp card on turn 4, or you had Corvus out, and then Vision. Sometimes that 6 is Hela, just for the record. Turn 6 is Blob, Magneto, or Hela, depending on what the board calls for. It's relatively straightforward, harder to play than it looks, but it is a very, very powerful deck. Quick hip count. We got Jeff, Mobius, Lockjaw, Blob, Vision, and Magneto. So a 6 hip, not bad. I would again like to call on Second Dinner to give us some frickin' variants for Kyra and Corvus and Cull that are not Spotlight variants. Thanks. Okay. Next up, we have our Season Pass giveaway. We're giving away well over 15 Season Passes this season. We give away a ton always, but we just hit 9,000 subscribers, so we are trying to give away some extra as a thank you to our wonderful, wonderful viewers. You can be one of those by hitting that sub button. Okay, so how you enter every video from the 226 video at the start of last week to this coming Friday's video, 3/8. If you are subbed, like and comment that video. Likes and comments are entered into a giveaway for each video. The comments of each video will yield 1 Season Pass. We're also doing a Twitter giveaway. We're giving away 5 more Season Passes on Twitter. You can check that out. We're at SnapJudgeCast there. It's linked in the description of this video. The pinned tweet, you basically follow, retweet, and leave a comment. You're in. We're going to be giving away plenty more, so please stay tuned if you're interested. All right. Andre Var is our next player. Andre Var is again a Russian player. I don't know the in-game name, so I can't tell you the rank. I did throw some different variants in here, so hopefully it's visually interesting. This is a very similar deck, except it's not running the Hela package. Instead, it's got 3 different things. This was very cool. It's got Black Swan, this is the best way I've seen this used in Black Swan, because Black Swan can be used to help grab priority for Alioth. It can be used to help steal a lane for Professor X, or Black Swan on 3 can lead to a Lockjaw with stones in it on turn 4. That's a lot of use for that card. It could also yield a 1-drop and Cull Obsidian on turn 4, but that's a lesser play compared to the other 3, which are all like absolute backbreakers and game winners. So that is a really great use for that card. Everything else here is fairly self-explanatory. If you can Professor X a lane, you usually have priority, and if you can do that, then you usually can win with Alioth. Okay, the replacements are the same, and you can't replace Alioth in this version. You can try, if you really, really must, replace Alioth with just whatever big 6 you would generally otherwise cut. Think Scar. Cool. If you must replace Alioth, you're looking at Scar, and if you must replace Scar, you're looking at She-Hulk, although this deck has less ramp, and that's way worse. Black Swan would be Psylocke, I guess, and then you're good. Alright, so turn 1, draw. Turn 2, Jeff, or Time Stone into Lockjaw. Turn 3, you if you can play Lockjaw, you play Lockjaw. If not, you play Black Swan if Lockjaw is in hand. If not, Time Stone is good as to just skip the whole damn turn and go to turn 5, and Mobius is more or less equal to carry here, pending the board. Turn 5, if you can, again, a Professor X or Vision are absolutely great. Or you can drop a Lockjaw if Cull is in hand for that same Cull and Stone play as last time, which is more or less better than Cull, which is more or less equal to Black Swan. Black Swan is really, really great if you have Professor X in hand on turn 5, because then you can drop a bunch of stones and Professor X and shockingly steal a lane. Vision is also really great on turn 5. 8 moving power remains a ton. Vision is one of the most underrated and powerful cards in the game. And that's more or less the same idea as Cull in a 1-drop into a Lockjaw. Turn 6 is Alioth, Bob, Magneto, whichever wins the game. Enjoy. Quick variant count. We've got a slightly different hip here. We've got the Alioth hip, and everything else is more or less the same. Again, I threw in different variants here for hopeful visual interest. All right, next up we've got Sizer Loki and Komi's Loki. These are players on opposing sides, but they both played Loki. The difference is fairly simple. We've got Morph and Rogue versus Cosmo and Juggernaut. I explained the Sizer version last week, where Cosmo and Juggernaut at the end of the game can lead to a 66% chance of shutting down a Hela when Hela is the matchup. Sizer also replaced during this tournament Mirage for Echo on the off chance that the opponent decides to play a bunch of Tribunal nonsense, because Mirage will shut that right down. Besides that, this is fairly standard Loki stuff, right? This is, I draw cards, and if I can get Loki off, I should win. Morph was backbreaking. Morph was incredibly powerful all day, although Morph grabbing Blob ended up screwing Komi's over a couple times. And again, see? Same deck, slightly different variants for the most part to keep it at least a little bit visually interesting. So, you need Zabu and Loki. Snowguard can be Maria Hill or Nico Minoru. Obviously, the deck gets worse, but here we are. Ms. Marvel, who's going to be in Spotlight Caches in a few weeks, is changed for Omega Red. That's worse. Mobius can be Omega Red, Enchantress, or Nick Fury. Or you can make changes between the two decks, obviously. And Mirage can be Sentinel. And remember, Echo replace Mirage for Sizer in this tournament. Mirage is generally better. I'm going to tell you straight up, I didn't see the Mirage card. I saw Mirage played a bunch. I didn't see the Mirage card actually played at all. Although the information is really nice. So, Snowguard over Quinjet, or Snowguard or Quinjet on turn 1 is generally the way you want to make the play. The logic here is if you think you can Loki on 3, you want a Snowguard, otherwise you usually want a Quinjet. So you can go Snowguard, Zabu, Loki. Perfectly fine. Turn 2, Zabu is better than Quinjet, is better than Mirage, is more or less equal to Snowguard. Zabu is really, really great here, obviously. You turn 3 Loki if Snowguard, or if a location put a bunch of cards in your hand, which happens more than you think. And then that's generally better than Coulson, which is better than Mobius, which is better than Morph. All of these things are matchup dependent. If you know what you want to play on 4, sometimes Mobius or Morph is better than Coulson. Sometimes Coulson will fill your hand, so you want a Mobius or Morph. Sometimes Mobius is needed because your opponent dropped a Zabu already, and sometimes you realize your opponent's playing Hela and you want a Morph to see if you can get something nice and big. Turn 4, Loki over Ms. Marvel. Obviously, if you have Loki cards, that changes things, but that's true for the rest of this. Turn 5, Loki over Dino, and turn 6, Shang or Dino. Ideally, you're playing Shang and like Ms. Marvel, or Shang and another 3, or Shang and a generated card to end the game if you're going that route. If you're playing the Sizer version, you will add Juggernaut there. If you don't have priority, you can just play. You can basically guarantee that your Shang is going to hit the big thing if they have the big thing by playing Juggernaut in one spot and Shang in the other. All right. Quick variant talk. Just hips. Sabu, Cosmo, Mobius, Coulson, Ms. Marvel. So 5. I wish I had that Devil Dino, but I don't. I also really, really like running the Rainbow Loki with this little Rainbow Happy Devil Dino. So that's where this is. The other version loses 1 hip because it doesn't have Cosmo in it. I threw, again, different variants in it for visual interest. I did buy this new Loki, and I decided since we're running Rogue, we can run Devil Dino, and they can both be cozy together since it's winter. Cool. All right, my season recap. I thought this was interesting. I played Zabu 184 times. Not surprising, Zabu is like everyone's most played card this season. It is, again, the only thing really worth doing early in the game. I upgraded Loki 18 times. I did not realize I did that, but hey, apparently so. I know I'm short on Loki boosters right now, so I guess that explains that. My highest powered location was only 112. That's a little surprising. That's not very high, but I don't play a lot of Tribunal nonsense, so I guess that's not shocking. I would have thought I hit higher with Torch, but that might have been toward the end of last season. Then I had a 92% win rate on the Throne Room. That's not surprising. I'm pretty good at locations that I can read and move in on and off. I can figure out pretty quickly if that's a location I'm going to need to abandon or not, and do so. I got a 77% win rate with Maria Hill in my deck. That is my infinite winning deck. I hit infinite with a Loki deck that ran Maria Hill in one of its 1-drop slots. That is not surprising. I covered that right at the start of the month. I hit infinite the first week most seasons. And I have an 85% win rate when I played Spider-Man. And I'm going to tell you this straight up. I don't remember playing Spider-Man once. I'm sure I did, obviously. Probably in Surfer. I'm guessing in Surfer. But I have no recollection of playing Spider-Man this season. That's my stats. Okay, One Hell of a Nightmare and Watcher of the Throne are the same basic value. There is almost no difference to these. The Watcher of the Throne is slightly more value, but not enough to really matter. These are okay buys. Neither of these are great buys. I'm going to tell you, I'm probably going to buy this Hela just because I have always kind of liked this Venomized Hela. And, you know, the extra gold and the extra credits are nice. So I'm probably going to buy it, but this is just an okay purchase if you want. It's exclusive in the Nuverse slot. I don't like this Odin variant at all. I love this Hela variant, even though I don't really like Venomized variants. The notable thing here is that Hela is a Series 3 card, so if you would like to play a Hela deck and don't have it, and you have the other cards necessary, feel free to buy this, and then you have access to a new deck if you're in the middle of Series 3. That's the real upside here. If you don't have either of those, I don't really recommend buying either of these unless you really want the variant, and I happen to really want that Hela variant. All right. .Geo played a Loki deck and then also played Sandman Hela. Sandman Hela is not a great matchup into Thanos. I'm going to get that out of the way right away. If you are expecting a lot of Thanos, it is not an amazing matchup, but it straight up beats a lot of other decks because Sandman still is an extremely powerful card. This is really simple. You discard some stuff, you Hela, or you ramp and you Sandman Doom Odin. Either one wins. It's perfectly fine. Ronin is huge because you're trapping cards in an opponent's hand, and so on and so forth. Good we are. So Corvus is somehow the only high series card here. I keep checking it because that feels wrong, but it's apparently true. So if you would like a Series 3 only deck that you can compete with at the highest levels, this is for you. Okay, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get yelled at. Everybody ready to yell at me in the comments? I think that Gio has a real argument for the best player in the world. He, I think, was the best player on the Italian team that just won this tournament. He's unbelievably consistent. I told him this. He was like, "Hi, thank you, wow." But he dominated this tournament. If he continues to dominate tournaments, I think it's him or Lambie, because he's near the top of the Infinite leaderboard every freaking season. He's an unreal player. Absolutely unreal. You should watch him play. His games were, I believe, on KM Best stream, and then, of course, Spyro streamed the finals. But Dachio's a monster. He was extremely unfavored into the Thanos that he played against, and still almost won. It was still extraordinarily close. So turn 1, Blade of a big card. Turn 2, Blade of a big card. Turn 3, is Electro or Corvus, depending on what you have. If you've got Sandman, then you can just feel free to Electro. If you don't have Hella, but you feel like you got a reasonable chance of drawing it for reasons X, Y, or Z, Corvus is generally better. Or you have a hand of like big cards and you know you can ramp into some good stuff. Turn 4, Sandman or Ronin, and if you missed, you can always Jubilee. Turn 5, Hella on Corvus or Doom. If you don't have Hella or Jubilee, you can Odin on Corvus, and that's generally better than Magneto or Giganto. Turn 6, Odin on Doom or Hella. If you Odin on Corvus and Hella, Corvus will discard the last 2 cards, and then Hella will bring them back again, which is great, and obviously making more Doombots is great. And then turn 6, you can Magneto, or you can Jubilee if you need Hella. There should be a 33% chance of Hella at that point. It's up to you whether you want to keep it or not. Sometimes that's a 50-50, depending on what your opponent has played, what the board has done, and so on and so forth. This is a very cool and powerful deck. All right, quick variants. We got our Ronin hip, our Blade hip, our Odin hip, Magneto hip, Giganto hip, and Infinite hip. One day someone's going to explain to me why every website says that Sandman hip is released, but I've never seen it. But I would like a Sandman hip very much. Was it a bundle that I missed? Somebody help me out here. Yeah, okay. This deck is great. I think it's a tier below most of the other decks played, although I think it probably would have been Loki. Loki does not like playing against this. All right, our final deck of the day is Googly / Desert Fox's Thanos. I'm going to tell you a thing that happened is Googly didn't show Shang-Chi until the very last game, and then Shang-Chi won 4 cubes and the game, and then the game / tournament. If you can hide Shang-Chi until it's got the most impact, don't tempo out Shang-Chi, don't just play Shang-Chi. It's incredible. This deck also finally does the Psylocke thing over the Mobius thing, assuming it was going to be a Thanos mirror. It wasn't a Loki match. Psylocke is better. Mobius is better. If you're going to see Loki, obviously, Psylocke is better. Otherwise, I think because ramping out a Professor X or Vision is so good, and ramping out Lockjaw means that the downside of the card is just sort of gone. Everything else here is fairly self-explanatory. Again, slightly different variants for as many cards as I could for hopeful visual interest. All right, Thanos, Colin Blauer needed. Jeff can be a Nightcrawler. It's Professor X. Obviously, that's way worse. Kyra can be Armor. Please note Kyra over Mobius. Kyra could also probably be Mobius. Scar to She-Hulk, and a hidden Shang-Chi was the key here, as nothing else was going to top that like 18 power in that lane, and it was the only card the opponent hadn't seen. Googly is also a complete beast at Marvel Snap, and you can find him Twitch streaming. So turn 1, draw. Turn 2, draw or time Psylocke into Lockjaw or Jeff. Turn 3, Lockjaw or time Psylocke are generally better than Kyra. And like that's what I think is so strong about this, that you have Lockjaw or time Psylocke as multiple options. And if you time Psylocke on 3, you can still drop Jaw and a Stone that turn, or you can drop Professor X or Vision. That's a lot for your opponent to play around. If you don't have that stuff, you can just play Cull. If you're going to play Lockjaw without the ramp, without the Stone into it right away, only do so if you have Cull in hand for that next turn. Cull, Stone into Jaw. Next turn is Cull or Scar and Stone into Jaw, or Professor X to lock a lane, or just drop Vision. Turn 6 is Blob, Magneto, Scar, or Shang plus. Scar or Shang will be played if you have something else to play with them. It is not unheard of to get Scar and Shang-Chi out in Lockjaw games on the last turn, which is completely freaking backbreaking, and then you win. Alright, one last look at this deck. This is a smaller hip deck, but we could have it be far larger hip. Again, different variants. We got Psylocke, Jeff, Lockjaw, Vision, Blob, and Magneto, so it's a potential 6-hipper, and this is, again, an extremely strong deck. I still think Thanos is the best deck in Marvel Snap, and it seems like this tournament is bearing it out, even though everyone stopped playing it when Lockjaw was gone. I'm not sure if Lockjaw is still worth it. That is undecided, but whether Lockjaw is or not, I think Thanos is still the best thing to be doing. All right. My shop for the day was this one. I decided to buy nothing. I just got the Jacinto Human Torch, which I like more than the Pandart. I have like 4 or 5 Mr. Negatives. I keep almost buying this Jim Lee. If it keeps popping up, eventually I'm buying the Jim Lee Mystique. And then I'm not buying a Pixel, so I don't care about that. Again, I have a hip for Sif. I have a good enough juggernaut that I'm happy. And then I looked at the Shang-Chi, and I really like the Shang-Chi. And then I went to check, and I realized I have 5 Shang-Chis. I have the Jacinto, I have the Baby, I have Art Adams, I have the Nullified, and then I have the Peach Momoko. 2 of them are gold. The Shang has Kirby. Eventually, I'll get them all gold in Kirby, because who doesn't play Shang? Everybody loves Shang-Chi. And just quickly, since we're here, no, Shang-Chi should not be nerfed. The win rate of the card is about 50%. Yes, it's played all the time. That's because the entire game is balanced around its existence. Please don't break Marvel Snap. We've seen what happens to Marvel Snap when Shang is unplayable, and it is not good. Alright, certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks. Those are for the day: Abigail Gieslin, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, DG Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, Fawthor Newman, Good Dog Gamer, Inc., Jay Nevery, JD McDonaldino, Akela Platano, Kertix Koirei, Doku, Philip Raktovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins, Rob Silverman, Robert Rivern, The Bizza, J Bussy, Extras V, Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Models, Louis Antunes, Matt Conduit, Matt H, Mikey Hijinks, No Flex, Ocularis, Pretty Chill, Seamus, Spike Jones, Two Ties, The Pirate King Tucker, The Homie Min, and of course, Gunny T. Alright, I mean, these are the best decks from the best players. I don't know what else to tell you. This is the people, like you saw the numbers next to those people's name, right? They're near the top. We've also got a top 10 deck for you tomorrow. It's a totally different top 10 deck that absolutely rolls one of the Loki Thanos pairing. We'll talk about that then. Check out patreon.com/snapjudgments if you're interested. $1 tier gets you access to the next Snap Judgment League, and we have better tiers from there. We also do, again, our regular King of the Hill tournaments. You got to be a patron for that. And hey, if you want to support us but not financially, hit that sub button and help us out. We'll see you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Much appreciation. Peace.